Welcome. This is the second video, the continuation of the part 1 video on Osho. So in the last video I was talking about how I met Osho and then how I went in my room and attempted to become enlightened fully for, it was at least like, I think it was 8 months, something like that. 5 or 8 months, I think. I can't remember. And then, okay, so I was meditating, all this mystical stuff started happening. But I didn't become enlightened, so I was just attempting to see what's in it. But I knew it was true though because of what this guy was saying, because I really believed what he was saying. And then at that point I started realizing, yeah, this must be something, because all this mystical stuff that goes against law of nature is happening. So I just kept at it, and then I gave up. It was Thanksgiving. I tried so hard, and then I gave up. I gave up forever. I didn't want to try to become enlightened because I didn't think it possible. Like if I gave such an effort that I knew, like, if this is not gonna happen right now, then it's not gonna happen. Because I gave everything I had to that. I tried fully trying to get rid of my mind, or trying to quiet my mind to silence so that I can become enlightened. And it didn't happen, so I gave up. And that same night that I gave up, something crazy happened. I got sent. I was lying down at my cousin's house on Thanksgiving, and then suddenly, it just happened. Something happened. My body started buzzing, and the whole world started buzzing like bees. It just started buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. And then I couldn't control my body for a second. My soul controlled it. It made me lie down, and then I got sent through the world, through the universe. I got sent through the universe. I didn't know what that experience was, but like, something happened. Something really, really profound. Something so weird, the weirdest experience I think anyone can ever experience. So from that day, I didn't think I was enlightened. It's like, I just thought it was an experience. But so that experience kept me going. So I was like, okay, there must be something. Because the way I thought enlightenment was death. I thought it was immediate death. Because that's the way that all these gurus and people portray it. But it was never true. Now I realize, because no one has the guts to display it how it is. Because they want people to trick people to become enlightened, which is not right. Nowadays, I guess. I didn't know, but apparently that's the first stage of nirvana. And apparently there's 7 stages of nirvana. So the first stage, what it means is that there's no going back from that point. That means that you're gonna be by the end of your life, you're gonna be fully enlightened. So that means that lightning strike change of person that you thought it was is actually a slow, gradual change from this certain point, the first point of nirvana. And then depending on how your soul wants you to experience at a different time. There's no telling what time it's going to happen. It's going to happen again and again and again and again and again. But what it really is you just keep looking. Slow, gradual, and mystical things start happening. I don't know how. And it's like drugs too. It's kind of fun too when you gets the hang of it. When you really try, and you can make your mind completely silent. It's like being high, and it's like being drunk. You can try it yourself. You'll see. It's like being high, and it's like being drunk. And I could just sit there looking more drunk than I could be, but without the side effects of being drunk, or without the side effects of being high. It was very blissful, very happy. So I didn't think I was enlightened after that happened, but this all happened because of this guy named Osho. And this guy named Osho always kept showing up. This guy is somehow, after his death, has a way of showing up through various mediums in media of showing me at the exact time what I need to hear, which is why I support these like kind of Osho international guys who all these sannyasins are dissing, because I was born when Osho died. I was born on August 28th. He died in like September something of 1989. A month after I was born, this guy died. And the funny thing about the guy is, for most of the time, maybe half the time that I knew about him, I thought he was still alive, but he was dead the month after I was born. It's funny how things work. And I never had a grandfather. Both my grandfathers were dead when I was born, before I was born. So I never had a grandfather, and so I looked at this guy like a grandfather. Another funny thing about him is this guy's not even old. You know how this guy died when he was 59, and by the time he was like 45, he looked like an old man already. He had white hair already. That's just one of the mysteries that enlightenment does for whoever it is. Just like Jesus, like his mystery was his miracles or whatever. He had that just because that's how his soul expresses itself. Maybe his soul is different than this person different. So people have powers like X-Men thing like that. That thing's actually real. The X-Men stuff, that's actually real. But they're not mutants, they're just meditating. If you meditate, you try yourself. Go at it fully, and some mystical stuff is going to happen. So, the Osho guy. I read this book about him. It's my favorite book of him, by him. It's Osho. It's called Osho, Glimpses of a Golden Childhood. You should read it. If you like Osho, I recommend reading the book Glimpses of a Golden Childhood. And I realized that this guy was just like me. Because this guy was crazy when he was a kid. Just like me, I was crazy. I don't want to go into like his whole past and like all his stuff. You just have to read about him yourself. One thing I like about him at that time was his clothing and stuff. But then I realized he didn't even care about clothing his whole life. Like, this guy had the best clothing I ever saw, right? After I searched the internet, ruthlessly trying to find videos of him. And the more videos I saw, full lectures I saw this guy as the most stylistic person I've ever known. Funny thing about him is this guy wore a white shirt his whole life. Up to the point where he got gray hair. His whole life he wore just a white shirt. Only a lungi, is it called? A shawl. A white shawl. His whole life, man. And And the only thing that I can think of is this guy with crazy cool style. His whole life he wore a white shirt, because white is it's every color combined, and it has the effects of every color too. So that's the funny thing about him. Another, I don't know. I could keep talking about this guy. Um, he read them. He only read books. This guy didn't watch TV. He only read books. And he read more books than anyone I've ever known. This guy read more books than almost everyone on earth. Because I think in his past life, he was always like a booky, knowledgey type of person. He was probably at Alexandria when it burned down. He was probably part of the heart and soul of Alexandria, the greatest library of all time. This guy was a really library type person. So this guy read all these books, and in India, like you don't really do that. Like there's nothing really there. It's all poverty. So his books was kind of like contrasting, and I bet you anything it boosted the economy of India in a way. He was doing it for India, he was doing it for himself, he was reading all his books because he enjoyed them. But this guy had so much knowledge, like I didn't know where this guy gets all his knowledge. Like how does he remember all these stories? I can't, this guy's a lot smarter than I am, I think, in that way. So I can't remember all these stories. I think he has such a good memory because of all this reading instead of watching TV. How he can just bring up all these weird things out of nowhere. How does he remember so many? I've seen this guy had like so many lectures, thousands. How does he remember all these stories? I just kept thinking. I don't know how. I think it's because of all that reading. And this guy would always get quiet. Like in his lectures, he would always stop. And at the time, I didn't realize why he stopped. Because in between the stop, I was still thinking and just thinking. Like, it didn't matter to me when this guy stopped and was like, hurry up, man. Say what you gotta say. I like what you say, but you take too long. And as I grew up and I got further into meditating, I realized this guy was doing this for the people who he kept in mind each stage of enlightenment. And he wanted you to meditate with him. It was so in a way that it wasn't really a lecture. It was just him. You were in his house. He got to speak how he wanted. He wasn't trying to impress you. He wasn't doing what an arrogant mind was. And I couldn't conceive of someone doing something without arrogance, like doing it for a purpose, for like your own gratification. I couldn't understand it. But then eventually I understood it and it made sense. But like at the beginning it was just nonsense to me. Like why would you speak so slowly? And why would you put silences between your words? It was so that he could catch a few people who didn't understand his words so much as the silence. So he would say something and hopefully that person would get a glimpse into silence and silencing their mind, and then it's called Satori. So this guy just cared for everyone. Like he had so much disciples at that point, and at that point there was no one as even close to equivalent to him as a master, having read all these books. This guy, he went to school for philosophy, and in his classes at school, funny thing about the guy is he always had 100%. His grades were always 100%, and I didn't see how this was possible. He was just a rare old guy. He was really rare, that's why. And he read all these books, so he knew more than the teachers. So how could you fail him if he knows more than you? And a lot in his early stages of his classes, he was always a troublemaker. So he was always asking the teacher questions that didn't pertain to the subject, and he was always making trouble. That's what I think I encourage anyone to do. If you're in class, don't waste time. If you want to think about this stuff, ask the teacher. See what they gotta say about it, and then don't be embarrassed about it. Be like the East, bring the East to the West, and you'll make a big disturbance or whatever. Just if you want to, just try. It's what I wished I did, because in school I was the opposite. I just understood what it was. I was thinking more so than asking a question from the teacher. I was thinking to myself. So I didn't ask questions because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to ask a question and everyone look at me. And in school I only answer the hard questions when no one else could answer. I would answer the hard question. But the Osho guy asked questions that weren't in class, so his teacher would like be like, "Oh, go home, don't come to school." And then the teachers gave, because it's India, like it's not that strict, so they passed him just so. Well, they knew he was so smart, and they passed him even though he didn't go to his school. Because every day he would make a big commotion. And then so he graduated, and he went to philosophy, and he got the highest mark, 99%. Because this guy read all the philosophy books in a outdated philosophy class that was trying to be taught. He read all the new philosophy books. He read all the old philosophy books before he went to even to philosophy class. This guy's crazy. He got expelled from 7 schools in philosophy because he's doing the same thing. So be wary of. I told you to do that, but be wary. 7 universities he got expelled from just because he kept asking questions to the teacher that the teacher couldn't answer and that wasn't pertaining to the lesson, or he would argue with the teacher. But the thing is, in philosophy, that's what you're supposed to do. Philosophy is an argument. People don't get it. When someone says something to you that you can't say anything, and then you just look past because you're probably an average person. Rare people, the rarest, oldest people, have experienced the same things in their old lives. So when they question it, they've already talked about it in their old lives, so they can accept whatever said as maybe a truth right on the dot. Just be like, okay, maybe it's true. But most people are just like, no, I'm the teacher. So that teacher would be like, no, I'm the teacher, behave yourself, this is the lesson. And then all these crazy stuff, like read glimpses of a golden childhood. This guy's crazy. Uh, what else? His books are actually his lectures. So when he was talking slowly like that, he was actually doing so much at once. So he was actually writing his books, trying to portray silence to people, make their minds slower, quieter, just to change the fixed pace that the mind moves at for a little bit. He wrote, so in that way, with his lectures, he published apparently like 500 books. 500 books. And when you read the books, it's like a real book that he wrote. Eh? They're good books and it's good literature. So it's the same as if he wrote it down. But there's more in a spoken word than there is in a written word. For instance, good writers, if something is written, you can tell that there's more behind the words than just the words themselves. So that's what happens when this guy's lecturing and then he uses it as a book. So he wrote about 500 books. That's a lot of books. He read about 100,000 books. It's a lot of books. Well, I doubt that he actually completely read all of them. He probably skimmed through a lot of them, and a lot of it is like probably short stories. This guy knows all these short stories, and then I think he included short stories as a book itself. Probably included children's books too. 100,000 books is a lot of books to read. The good thing about him is with all his knowledge, he's just telling you everything he learned from those books. So by reading his books, it's like you're reading all those books too. He just tells you what matters, the root and core and most intelligent of all those books. Of course, he doesn't tell everything because not everyone asks him the right questions. I get mad sometimes when people ask a master questions and it's always the same questions. Like ask him, I'm like, oh man, I wish some people asked him some cooler stuff, but you get what you get. And there's a lot of stuff that you just can't find, or you got to read all his books. No one has the time for that. So there's a big scandal about this guy. He moved from India to America to try to make an ashram here in the USA. It was in Oregon, which is really close to Washington, right on the top west part of US. This guy is I think this guy's the most insane person ever. Like probably one of the most insane people, definitely one of the most insane people to enter USA. Like, this guy's nuts. Because when he went to USA, he didn't say anything. He gave up reading and he gave up everything. He took a vow of silence for 3 years while his disciples were making the commune. Because this guy chose to make the commune in Oregon. And Oregon, I want to say this, Oregon, poon, organ, a woman's organ, male organ, poon, vagina. That's what we say, vagina. origin. He's just, that was his joke, eh? To make a friggin' ashram in Oregon, in the origin, and he's from Pune. his in India, his ashram was in Pune. He's funny. He's one of the funniest guys. He's really funny. The thing is, like, he never laughs in his lectures or whatever, because when he gets so intelligent, like, there's not really any jokes that are funny anymore. You've heard all the jokes; they're not funny anymore. But that's how people try to portray themselves nowadays. Like nothing's funny to them. They really they haven't got they haven't heard every joke. They're lying to themselves. It took them 3 years to make. And if you've ever seen dynamic meditation, this guy invented he invented dynamic meditation. And if try to search dynamic meditation and see how crazy it is. You just try to look at what this crazy man was doing in the USA. Of course, this guy couldn't last very long doing dynamic. Thousands of people doing dynamic meditations in the USA. This guy's nuts. So this guy pretty much suicided, in my opinion. He suicided just the way Jesus might have suicided. Because it's, you might have heard like the argument that, oh, Jesus is the Son of God. Then why would he keep this one disciple, Judas, who's going to betray him, with him, if he knows he's going to betray him? If he's a son of God, he knows, he has to know, he's a damn son of God, he knows everything. So why would he let Judas betray him? It's arguable that Jesus wanted to be betrayed. Same way Osho presumably went to the USA and wanted to be betrayed. This guy freaking doing all these dynamic meditations. It's friggin' crazy. It's insane. Everyone looks at that like it's insane. Western culture cannot even look at that for a second and not think it's insane. So this guy is friggin' so crazy. 3 years silence, and then he started talking again. And there was this girl named Sheila who was in charge of the. Everyone else who knows Osho at this point, who knows and is a Sannyasin of Osho, which means disciple, Sannyasin. Everyone knows about this girl named Sheila, who supposedly framed Osho. So he put that girl in charge of the ashram because he knew that she was a crazy, arrogant, egotistical person, and he thought that that's what he needed to survive and flourish even the least bit in the USA, because otherwise people were just going to take them like a joke or whatever, and they wouldn't get anywhere with all the legal stuff because they tried making their own city. This guy came from India and tried making his own city with this huge beard, looking like a damn terrorist in the USA, looking like the damn devil to people. And the goddamn supposedly convicted him of bioterrorism or something. But they put him in jail for immigration, some kind of immigration policy that was wrong, and then he claims that he was poisoned in prison. But anyways, there was a big scandal that these guys were doing bioterrorism, but it was really this girl named Sheila and like her gang or posse or something. Anyways, I don't think there's much to say about Osho. He's a very simple man who did all these brilliant things because he didn't watch movies. He rather read books. And when you read a book, the thing about books is that everyone's a good actor in the book. Because you read it yourself, it's based on yourself, however you can imagine that person. So everyone's a good actor in the book. You can't really complain so much and just don't read that book. You read a different book. With television and movies, like there's always people complaining, oh, the acting wasn't that good, or I didn't like this. They're just not the same. They're different things because a movie goes by in an hour. A book takes like a long time, hours and hours and hours and hours just to read one book. So time is more like real life, and books are more like real life. So with that, you can do stuff in real life that's different than a movie. Like life isn't a movie. People look at movies and try to act like they're in a movie, and they never do anything cool. They never do like anything legendary or stupendous. But since this guy only read the books and he took it seriously as legends of the books, like the legend in the book superiorly outweighs the legend in a movie because it's like real life. So you read all that stuff in a book and you can think to yourself, oh, I could probably do that in real life, and then they do that in real life. So all the way up till the last year of his life, when I think he died when he was 59 or something, or 60, I can't remember. I think just 59. He never actually got to be an old man, poor guy. Um, the last few months of his life is when he named himself Osho. Up to that point, he was calling himself Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. It was never really Osho until the last point, and at that last point, he wanted to always be remembered as Osho. So everyone who knows him as Osho should know that for this whole life, he was always Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. And in his books, it's like all Osho. And Osho, the meaning of Osho is it's like a Japanese Zen high priest. So he saw the potential in Zen. He saw it as a really great thing, and he saw that Zen was kind of not well known, so he wanted to raise more awareness to something positive, and he named himself Osho for the last memory, almost like a gift. And this world as life is an old show. It's an old show. We've been in the mind many times in many different bodies. It's an old show. So that's what I think. I thought for the longest time that God was my master, because I started thinking of him like my master, and then like I started thinking of everyone as my master after that. Anyone who had something to say was my master at that point. I started being a disciple, really, for the longest time. Even right now, at this moment, I'm a disciple. If I watch anyone's like stuff, then I'll disciple. So I probably had more masters than anyone. 'Cause I even looked at hip hop artists like my masters. I would listen to them because it's almost like a master, really, when you listen to their music. Those I experienced it myself. Like when you write music, and you tap into the writing in a mystical way. In that form of expression, it grips you, and you feel it, and it's actually similar. I actually looked at those people like masters too. So I probably had, oh my god, thousands of masters. But this guy is my main master. I love him to death. I'm forever grateful for that guy. So thank you, Osho. I love him. You should love him too. Thank you.